Right, so it's the 24th of March 2025, and the burning problem's been really bad. I mean, not just bad, really bad. I've had to go out extra early because I'm ill from it. I don't know who's doing it, but I'm getting pissed off with it. Also, you had the eye problem again last night. That seems to be increasing at the moment. It seems to be done in stages. So initially it's like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Then there was a 45-minute period the other day, and obviously it's starting to increase now. Right, so obviously this is a rather personal thing I want to mention. I mean, I don't like mentioning this because obviously it is personal, but you know, I'm getting fucked off with it. And they keep on timing a loud bike when you're masturbating or stuff like that, or timed, you know, to all the stages of, you know, before shooting. So I'm getting a bit pissed off with that. Someone says, "Smash you in, Justin. Sad, you're over 40. That's from outside. I don't know who said that. And a dog barks, "Fuck your," I won't say what it says because it's not acceptable, but it's something very bad. And then after that, as I go out, JJ timed. Then a Wayne lorry. Bosters or something like that, I'm not sure what the van name said because I didn't get it in time. Then a buggy, followed by a baby held out coming out of a shop. Able van, started car, pulls off the road and then goes up the road which I'm crossing, nearly smashing me. Give it to him said by a woman pushing a baby with chicken pox. Arrow facing down on a vehicle. Back goes catalytic converter setup. Revamp van, car with daisies on it. Flannery lorry. Sadie, Dando lookalike from a car. And a lot of traffic colliding while crossing the bridge. In total you had about just over 200 cars, so it's been quite busy. Then a crow says, "Knife dead just." A crow says, "Knife dead child molester," in a distorted ha 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 term. Crow says, "Shag," D-A-G, dag, very clearly or something like that. And then after that, there's a blue car. Crow says, "Sick cunt having a robbery." Sexual intercourse written on the side of a car window. Sadie car. Grey car. Bedford van. Black and blue. Dark red. Network Railway van. Crow says, "Shot dead. You shagged Amy Weston," when I've never shagged her. Bird says, "Being fucking murdered, Justin. Definitely raped her." And saying, "Shagged Amy Weston." On the catalytic converter hot point, firstly there's a load of cars. I didn't take much notice of what colour the cars were. And then as I reach there's a black sexual followed by a grey car. And the black sexual car's a learner car. Right, I've had to quit my smoking for a time because obviously I'm not feeling very well this morning because of chest problems. And also you've got the burning problem that I mentioned, which is extremely bad. I need to cut down on my drink as well because I've been bad with that. So I've had my last roll up this morning, and that's all I'm going to have for a while. The next thing I want to mention is a bird says, "Being knifed down, you sick paedophile. Being sexually abused in your next life, Justin, ha ha ha." And saying, "You raped her, Justin." And then Crow says, "Stephanie." Right, so Crow says, "Being stabbed." Then there's an air freshener that has sex written in the middle of it in big writing, and it's dangling down off the mirror in a car. Then you had a Finker van, and then a Pull Boy van. So you've got a van trying to overhanging fucking trailer to rip my legs off behind as it passes a van. Dumper truck on the thing with Eagle Plant on it. Before that, we had a swing car. A van with 3 spikes upright on the car, on the van roof, sorry, and about 25 cars down that little narrow bit of road. Up until 10 days ago, whatever it was, the record breaking amount was under 10 between July 2024 and, you know, 10 days or so ago, whenever it was. And not every day since then has been doubled or tripled or as heavy as anything. Right, so I've been stuck at the roundabout for the last 3 minutes because the traffic flow's been bad. and now I'm down that road where you can have 45 minutes or an hour without a single car on the road, but it's only being timed and mapped out when I go down that road. All the cars at the roundabout are all black and blue, red, white, and whatever else. Right, so it's been 8 times loud bike time to get in an itchy bumhole. Then there's a Fink van, spelled F-I-N-K. Then there's a Lauren car. We know a lot about this Lauren business because we get the sexual son curses with that name, because obviously it's a lady that's sexy that worked in Tesco's that tried leading me on because she knew that I needed sex. But the problem is she's got someone, she thinks I'm Sven, and she's now possibly married with 2 ginger-haired children. Anyway, after that you had a Finker van, which is a Finker coffee van. Right, so Willie shoots up some motorbike timed out in my direction with the itchy bumhole still occurring. Very personal, but I'm getting pissed off of it. Before that you had clean hard van, orange sexual car, and there's a possibility that someone said being stabbed, well sad, though I didn't hear that properly to confirm that is what was said. Right, I forgot to mention that there's a load of aircraft before that, and also there was a big dog, tall type dog, that almost ran into me. Then you had crows and birds saying fuck you, or I won't say what it says, and saying well sad, shot down Justin, and saying bird says child rapist. And then you had some drain covers hit over, and then after that, when I mentioned the previous bit of information initially on this recording device before I messed up what I needed to say, someone in the garden says yes. Right, so they're pissing about with this Wayne setup at the moment. So firstly, itchy bumhole, some motorbike timed. Bonus, a bike wiggled up me. Curry's lorry, started catalytic converter, and obviously the stench, but obviously I still can't smell because I got the flu. Bateman van timed. Grey white, granny timed. Red, grey, white, bow whistled over. Bonus, a motorbike time walking out the shop with an empty road on a very busy road usually. Red, grey cars. We like to mess things up t-shirt. Red sexual car, blue car timed, red sexual car with light on. Drain covers it over, started car. Orange car saying Wayne with light on. Yes car, Wainwright lorry timed. A van that says good enough on the side of it. So it says good enough. Smash you to pieces rubble, smashing flatbed lorry or lookalike to that lorry. And there's more aircraft above. So it's busy for that. There's a hell of a lot of aircraft today. You know, like helicopters, planes or whatever. Obviously I've stopped to have something to eat. But if I went on that road where it's 45 minutes to 1 hour where there can be no traffic at all, there's about 30 cars that were timed, and I was initially going to go to that road, and that's why I stopped here. Right, so it's 1 PM and they've decided to circle me with the sunshine. So it's grey cloud everywhere, and there's a lot of aircraft still, I've noticed, like helicopters, but they're deliberately causing that sun to be around me. But they're violating me when it comes to sexuality. As I mentioned many times before, this specific cursed painting that I'm being under the influence with. For most people it goes in favour if they got the sun, but for me it goes against me because they're violating me in a twisted fucking way. So this painting obviously suggests this Lauren, who I mentioned earlier on, it works at Tesco's. Now she was trying to apply, she applied that you want sex and she wants sex, but obviously it's too late for that because she turned against me. She thought I was Liam or Savannah or whatever, and obviously she's got a boyfriend called Mike, 2 children now, but at the time it's possible she was single, I don't know. Anyway, actually there's one time where she dyed her hair red, and that was in the early days of when I first saw her at Tesco's. So she looks very similar to Britney Spears. Basically the same skin Britney Spears would have had when she was about her age, actually. Now, I'm not sure how old she'd be today, but the oldest she could be is my age, but the likelihood is she's a bit younger. And she's one of those that look younger than her proper age, if you get what I'm saying. Anyway, let's get to this painting, shall we? As a painting by itself, obviously it's not a good suggestion because you're being violated even if you've seen the painting once in your life. But it's the fact that it's been made big and sold on postcards in card shops. So basically it shows a lookalike to this Lauren that works in Tesco's, with her legs behind the clouds, and she's moving her body in a sexual way, in a suggestive way in the painting. And also in this painting she's stretching her hand out with the sun coming out her hand, but again it's done in a sexual way to imply I want sex with you. And she's got there's part of the clothing's not on when it comes to the to sections of that painting, and then obviously the rest of the picture's grey cloud with fields, a hut or possibly a farmhouse or whatever in the painting. There's people coming, which is not helpful when I'm trying to document this. And obviously they designed her lip on the painting to make a sexual pose, like as someone's going and I've mentioned that many times on previous recordings, but I need to mention it again because that's what they're doing with the sun. And obviously this person that's walking down the track is wearing clothes that a man in his 40s or 50s would be wearing, more 50s, but the actual image of the person that's walking down the track that's being cursed with the sunshine, like a spotlight, the sun's being shone down on this person, then he looks like he's a chap in his a youngish chap, so in his 20s possibly. But the way they designed the picture also can resemble my face from a side angle. I initially saw this painting on the internet in 2015-2016 area, and then going back to 2023 it was being sold in Yandles in Martock, so I didn't click to it initially, otherwise I would have bought the postcard or whatever, or took a photo of it. But the problem is it didn't click until I was walking to the bus stop. But the problem is it was the last bus back on that specific day, so I had to try and go there again to look for the picture, and it wasn't there. So I asked the lady in the shop, is the picture going to be available? And then at one point she wrote down the artist's name of that painting, and if they can stop putting everybody in my path, that is, so I can say what I want to say. So eventually, when the bus wasn't packed solid, I managed to go back to Yandles in Martock a few months later to ask who the artist, the painter was, after I lost a piece of paper that it was written on when I went there last time. But unfortunately the attitude changed, and I was being treated as a sad person, and I was being mistaken as surveying conversation, and it turned out to be nasty, and none of the people there were very happy. So then obviously I looked on the internet and I couldn't find it, and obviously I can't see it anywhere, and I've not found it anywhere in any card shop. But also when they designed this painting, it's like a mystical effect, so it's got a lot of colour in it, but it's a dull effect painting that looks really nice, so it's like a nicely designed painting, if I remember. But I don't know much else about the painting because I've not seen it, I've only seen it that once. Right, so there seems to be a lot of aircraft. I don't know what the reason is for that today. While playing back the recording that I just did, mentioning the sexual sun curse, someone says being beat up, and then there's dribbling bow whistles. Now, I've been looking back at some of the setups that have occurred today. So basically they're digging at me, claiming that I've had sex, or claiming that I shagged Sadie Dana when I haven't. The other thing that they're doing is digging with this Wayne business, and I'm getting very pissed off of it. So they're trying to apply, oh, that's good enough, oh, that's good enough when it comes to sexuality or whatever. Oh, that I do. We don't give a shit. We're going to fucking put this action against you. We're going to rip you to pieces. And starting all that fucking crap. I remember going back to 2006. Maybe 2007. It was only about 2 years. The Wayne suggested setups were occurring. And then it died out completely. And the people that set this organised force up knew back at that time that that's not good enough. And that I want something like a sexual partner or whatever. But obviously, since these new setups have occurred, since the lockdown, they're bringing back old stuff and stirring shit with stuff they've already confirmed to be a load of bullshit and lies before we went into the lockdown. So it's like they've reorganised all this force against me, digging or causing shit with all the stuff that they've already messed up with going back in the past before the lockdown. Right, so I'm going to currently take the direction of where the trouble was occurring the other day when that person had an argument with me. So I've just lit a tiny fire to get rid of the rubbish that I had, because I can't find a bin and I can't put it in my bag because it's causing a mess. So I did it that way, and obviously I got caught clearing it up, and now I'm going to face the direction of the trouble, or where that person started on me, even though the sun is out and I can't photograph the thing I want to take a photograph. But it's one of those days where they want to cause shit, put me into the trouble, and also it's one of those days where I'm prepared for it, so that's what I'm doing. Right, so there seems to be a lot of helicopters. Again, I don't quite understand why or how this is happening, but for the last hour or so there's just been a persistent flow of air traffic. Right, so I managed to get past the 2 roads with about 10 catalytic converter setups. Right, so the next thing I want to mention is the clock has gone on my phone, so I don't know what the time is. But the good news is I'm walking down an area where there's a clock in someone's garden near the greenhouse, or in the greenhouse, or wherever it is, which actually has the right time on it. So I'm going to go down there and look over to see what the time is, and I'm going to reset my phone. Right, the other thing that's occurred is there's some rips in my pocket. Now, I don't know if I did that last night, the day before, or whether I did it today. So I'm not very happy about that, because it's a newish coat, and also it's near the pocket, meaning if the pocket rips, then I lose my stuff out of the pocket and it doesn't fall into the second layer. So that's a bit annoying as well, and you can't sew it back because the type of material it is. Right, so someone's walked past with a Make Love top. So it's like sexy clothing this lady's wearing. So she's about 50 years of age, and she's dressing up in like pyjamas, and yes, she's quite good looking actually for 50. Smooth skin, which is quite rare, and has like, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but a curvy body. So yeah, she walked past me. She didn't make any suggestions or anything like that, or barely looked. But you had that. You still got aircraft passing. There's a loud plane that passed, and there's also a couple of other helicopters with different engine noise. And then a crow said something that is not suitable to say. It's saying fuck you or whatever, and I have respect for people, and I don't think it's a good thing that animals need to say that, but something's causing it to come out as to say stupid words that that shouldn't be occurring. Right, so I've been put in a situation where I've got a sore whatever, and it's making it very difficult to walk. So I'm very, very pissed off about that, so I've had to use this stupid claws or whatever it's called, bucking cream. Right, so I've seen a helicopter in the sky that's a pink sexual colour. There's been a lot more in the way of aircraft. I passed a car with a sticker saying sex wax, and then I saw that person who wore that top the other day that says it's your lucky night, and she's wearing it again today. Right, so I've reached the road, and initially there's grey and red cars. They weren't really set up in a suggestive order on this occasion. Then you had a sexual car, followed by a Joslin van. That's spelt Joslin. Now I don't know what Joslin means, but I've heard of a track, I think it's a piano track, I'm not sure, which is called Joslin the Entertainer, so it's a classical composer. But apart from that, I don't know what it means. Followed by a replacement van, which is a white van and black writing. I think it had like a light bulb type picture on the side of it, next to it. And then straight after, with no cars in between, you had a Tesco van. Now obviously I mentioned this sexual sun curse, and this Lauren that works in Tesco's on a regular basis when I'm mentioning this specific cursed sexual painting, where this person's being circled with the sunshine in a deliberate way. We've got that at the moment, so within a 2-mile radius it's blue skies and sunshine where I am. Then there's a further 2 to 3 miles all around where you've got evaporating clouds and blue sky. But elsewhere once you reach about 5 miles away in all directions, is grey cloud everywhere. And obviously this weather has been circling me for the last hour and a half. Anyway, going back to the replacement van, followed by the Tesco van, if you want to look at it in a symbolical way or a suggestive way to what I'm mentioning when it comes to this painting or whatever, or this Lauren, then basically what they're applying is that Lauren has turned and it's got to be replaced. Well, in actual fact, Lauren has turned in some ways, because she's been mistaking me as Sven and is now in a sexual relationship with Mike, so it wouldn't be possible for her to go with me anyway. So they're saying there's going to be a replacement. So who's that going to be if that ever takes place? Right, so you've had Seagull saying off to jail, ha ha ha, and claiming that I molested Sadie, saying molested Sadie. Seagull says fuck DAH, or DAH, and HIV needle. Bird says off to jail, molested Sadie. A bonus allowed bike timed, and then there's an Asda van. Like just now it's Tesco's, but there's an Asda van. So, but there's no indication or suggestion of any replacements. Right, so we've got a tractor with a bucket my way. And now that tractor's been all so, yeah, he's turning up where I was standing doing the recording. And then obviously you've got another car. And on this road you can get 45 minutes or an hour without a single vehicle. Right, so I've got some more bike issues. There's something a bit more serious I want to mention. One of my friends, the neighbour, he's got to go back into hospital at the moment because obviously he's undergoing mental health issues, so I'm a little bit concerned for him, you know, a bit worried, because obviously I see him as a really good friend, but hopefully he won't be in there that long. Right, so there's been 15 cars on this road, which is the bit where there's usually no more than about 5 or whatever. 9 I think it is, record breaking amount up until, well, 2 weeks ago, just under. And then obviously I went into 20, 30 and whatever in one direction. Right, so just before this you had an S&D van and Hardy's wrapper on the floor. SD can apply Sadie Dando, and Hardy's rapper can apply something like a hard-on or an erection. So basically what they're saying or applying is that you're getting an erection over Sadie. Well, Sadie's not actually my type, and she's very close looking to Lisa Pike as it stands today. Lisa Pike is an old school friend that I knew at Avalon School. So what happened was, in 1994 area, I was being picked on at Elmwood School because they were having communication with the people at the Blake School through the fence on the playing field at the back part of the school. It might be different today, but at the time they were allowed to do that, and they were turning people against me, and it got to a stage where I had to change schools, so I went to Avalon School. In actual fact, the whole 4 years I was at Avalon School, there was less than 5 fallouts in the whole 4 years I was there. My bird tweets child molester just, "You're a fucking pedo." Bird says you molested Daisy. So this is not Sadie, Daisy. Just having a break-in, and there seems to just be a flow of regular voice sounds coming from animals in that pattern. Right, I just wanted to mention that when I was on that road where that car's going now, there's about 20 cars passing in one direction and 20 cars passing in the 4 or 5 minutes I was going in the other direction. While I was on the other side of the bench, at the top part of the graveyard, there was actually nearly 35 minutes without a single car on that road. But what has been occurring is there's been a load of helicopters and planes still occurring on top of the ones I mentioned earlier on. Now obviously, after the Tesco van and replacement van, they're just pissing about with the Sadie Dando suggestion, or an SD van. So there's not really given any indication of who the replacement is of this Lauren, of this sexual sun curse that I'm being violated with. However, if we go back 14 minutes ago, I went to walk down into the bottom part where the actual church is, and there was a Love Boat car timed. Now I think I've seen that Love Boat car before at Weymouth, but I'm not 100% sure. But what followed that was the Tesco van. So as you can hear, all the traffic's picking up now, and I notice it picks up when I go towards the bench, because that's where the catalytic converter stench is going to end up, because I've changed my seating direction. But it happens all the time. Over there I was 35 minutes nearly, and there was no cars. As soon as I walk over to that bench, they all suddenly occur. Right, so the last hour has only been a few setups, but that's because I've been on the phone speaking to someone. I want to get this one out of the way first, because just after I came off the phone, someone got nasty with me. Some rough bloke, a really rough accent, and he said this: "Break in his place, fucking Savan." And then he said, "I'll fucking smash him up, I'll fucking beat him." So obviously I'm not very happy about that. And as we reach the road, you've got a black car and a dark red car, and whatever car that is, I want to mention that as well, a grey. But if we go back over an hour ago, there was a couple of setups. I'm not sure if I mentioned them or not. You had the Love Boat car reoccur. Initially that was timed with a Tesco van, which is a nice setup really, especially if you want to work it on the principle of that sexual cursed sunshine painting, or that Lauren that worked in Tesco's or whatever. But there's no indication of what's going to come in the future, and it could turn negative like it usually does with a load of malicious setups to follow. Anyway, I saw a one-to-one van. I've not seen this van for about 15 years. The last time I seen this specific one goes back to about 2010 or before, when I was living at West Street in Bridgewater. So there are other vans that say one-to-one on it, but this specific one is a phone van, or a phone supplier, or used phones or whatever, which is a disused van now. But I've never seen it in Yeovil, and I never saw it the 8 years I was living at Burnham-on-Sea either. So It says 1 to 1 on it, so you've got ONE and then the number 2 and then ONE. So obviously the writing's a little bit faded, but it's not really that faded considering how old the van is. Right, so I just want to update you on the burning problem. I've been out 6.5 hours now, and I'm feeling a little bit worse than I was yesterday, the day before, and most days last week, so it's taking longer to go than most of the other days throughout this week, and it's nearly as bad as what it was when I initially went back to mine after coming back from holiday after staying at my mum's, because that was another time period where the problem didn't eliminate that quickly and it was lasting most of the day. Right, as far as the eye problem goes, I'll give you a quick rundown. I moved from my old place and I was camping because of the eye problem. I went to the hospital on one occasion to get the eye checked before I moved from Burnham-on-Sea to Yeovil. It was about a year before I moved, actually, and the people at the hospital said that there's some strain on the eye and they think it's caused by a welding machine. So I told them that I haven't been using any devices like a welding machine when the eye problem was occurring at my old place, but that was confirmation. And then I was told I had glaucoma when I went to the opticians, and obviously it just continued and continued. The doctor at that time was saying it's caused by schizophrenia, regardless of all the photographic evidence of these unusual lighting systems in the neighbours' flats, including a laser. And the police, when I mentioned this to the police, they said because it's not shone directly through your window, there's nothing that they can do about it, and they said it shouldn't be affecting you if it's not being shone directly through your window. So I just had to put up with it and put up with it until I eventually moved. So I was camping for 3 months before I moved. When I moved to Yeovil, to Thornhouse, it took about 5 months, 6 months for my eyes to get better. And when we reached February 2022, I went to the opticians, and that was the exact day the eye problem started to improve, and there was no more eye problems, and there was no eye problems for 16 more months. So that's 1 year and 4 months. So I was mentioning it to the staff, and they're sort of saying, how's the eye problem? And I said, it's been told it's schizophrenia. One of them said, when it comes to the eye problem, he said that one thing might not have been schizophrenia, it might have genuinely been something wrong with your eyes. And I said, as long as they're better, you know, you move from there. So things were a bit better. When I was at my old place, I didn't know I was mentioning anything about the burning problem, but the mental health team who came to see me today said that I was experiencing the burning problem at my old place as well. So I must have been experiencing that, but I was mostly concentrating on the eye problem because it's the eye problem that was affecting me in particular. And I'm trying to think that there might have been some times where the burning occurred. I can't remember it properly because I was mostly concentrating on the issue with the eye. Well, when the burning was occurring at my old place, if it was occurring, because I can't remember what I've told them in the past, then obviously it's nowhere near how bad it is now. So it's reversed. I moved from my old place because of the gritty eye, dry eye, or the feeling like your eyes being forced open and outwards, tight feeling in your eyes persistently, to Yeovil where the burning problem's occurring. But you've got to take into account, after February of 2022 right through until 2 weeks ago, apart from a 2-week period where I had a bit of sore eyes, which felt like a natural cause rather than someone causing the eye problem, and a few days here and there in that specific year when that 2-week period occurred in 2022 or 2023, I can't remember what year it was. and quite literally there's been no eye problems at all for 3 years. The burning problem started on the last day of January 2024 or the first day of February, so I had to stay at my father's because of it for 5 weeks. When I was at my father's there was no burning at all, and then obviously I had to go back to my place and whatever. So this has been a daily occurrence, but it was a 6-month period where it was eliminated, and then it started to gradually build up, especially on a Sunday, and there could be 2-hour periods or 20-minute periods here and there as well. But from the 1st of January at 1 AM in the morning, quite literally every day in January, the burning problems have been very bad, and there have been days where I've had to actually go outside at 6 o'clock in the morning because of how bad it is. And obviously it's not stopping either, it seems to be getting worse and worse. So then I went to my mum's for a week, and when I went to my mum's for just under a week, there was no burning, but it did take 24 hours for the burning sensation to eliminate to nothing. A few weeks later, because I ended up with a chest infection, I was in bed ill for most of that time. You could feel that you were burning, you just had to put up with it because I was too ill to go out. I eventually went on holiday, and the burning started to get really bad just before 3 days, I think it is, before I went on holiday, and it took just over 24 hours, maybe a bit longer, for the burning sensation to eliminate all the radiation or whatever's been pumped into my body causing the burning to go back to normal. Once it did, there was no burning at all while on holiday at my mum's for that 2-week period. No burning at all. It all happened the day I went back, and when I went back it happened suddenly and it happened intensely. So initially I felt a bit of burning, and then obviously at 9:22 PM on the day I came back the burning was really bad, and by the next morning I was feeling really bad and I was not very happy, and I left phone calls, text messages, voicemails to people in authority and people like the mental health team to explain the issue. So this burning problem's got a lot worse, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I've got to do this every single day now until I eventually move from my place, or if I don't do this it would mean staying at my dad's or my mum's to be able to, you know, breathe or whatever, because these symptoms are getting worse. And obviously it doesn't happen when you go out, it doesn't happen when you camp, it doesn't happen if you stay at someone else's place. It's only happening in that apartment. EMF meter, radiation detector and nuclear radiation detector are picking up all these frequencies as well, but there are some burning sensations that are occurring where it's not picking up anything at all, and that burning is very, very bad. It just will not read it, and it seems to be about, well, it's 3 times worse than what it used to be. And obviously if it got any worse I wouldn't be able to stay there. I would seriously have to stay at my dad's, my mum's, or camp, which I don't want to have to do. But the problem is the council being very slow with moving me out of there to another place. And when I was speaking to the mental health team, someone who's a bit more knowledgeable about Home Finder said that you're not going to get a bungalow or anything like that. You will have to have a flat in a block of flats or something like that. So it's going to be very difficult to choose where to go to, because I don't want this happening at my new place when I eventually move. And now the timing loud bike's tied to an erection, which I'm not very happy about. So that's how it is. Right, so there's been a few loud bike issues, but the overall traffic flow or the overall setups doesn't seem to be that suggestive this evening. It just seems to be quite calm. Even the vehicles that are passing on the road seems to be just a casual flow that's not too suggestive. However, the exhaust fumes from this obviously I've got to put up with, because the wind's blowing in this direction. But obviously I can't smell it. It just smells like the flu-y type smell you get with a flu or cold or whatever, and I still got that at this moment. I still can't taste my food properly either, and it's a week ago since I lost my taste and smell. Right, so the catalytic converter stench is on the increase, even though I can't smell it. You know that the smoke's there, and I've got to just breathe it in. There's nothing I can do about it, because you can't avoid it, and the traffic flow's busy. Obviously it's dark now, so I can't see what vehicles are on the actual road, or the colour of the vehicles, but initially the suggestion has been down. The setups have dropped for a time. Obviously it's the calm before the storm in most cases, so it drops and then suddenly kicks off again. Where several hours ago I mentioned that there was a replacement van followed by a Tesco van, and then when I got down to the next section there was a Dreamboat car followed by a Tesco van. Now that doesn't look like a suggestion, and under normal circumstances it wouldn't make any sense to anybody. But I want to talk about this specific painting that I mentioned earlier. It's a sexual painting where you're being cursed with the sunshine, and it's cloudy everywhere else, all for other people. And obviously on this specific painting it shows a sexy woman that looks like Britney Spears in her early 20s, who's a British pop singer, a lookalike, basically with her legs behind the clouds, as I mentioned earlier, and she's posing her body in a sexual way, stretching her hand down with the sun coming out her hand, cursing this young man that's on the path, that's walking on a track. And then obviously the rest of the painting's all cloudy or whatever, where she looks more towards this Lauren that works in Tesco's rather than Britney Spears, but got that appearance of Britney Spears in her on that specific painting. Obviously Lauren is in a relationship with Michael, as I was saying earlier, and they have 2 ginger haired boys, and obviously that Lauren doesn't like me like it was when she initially knew what my problem was, going back to the time when I used to go to Tesco's back in 2015 or 2016. So she could work out that I was single and not had anyone, and she was making suggestions. But many times that I went to Tesco's, enemies were starting on me. I'd been forced out of Tesco's. Then we come into the time of when the earliest of severe threats came in. Then she got someone, and then it was too late. But with the setups that have occurred today, they timed a replacement van with a Tesco van, so that's very interesting indeed. So what's it going to be replaced with? Because they still haven't made any suggestion of what it's going to be replaced with. My belief is it won't be replaced with anything. They'll just step up or rig up really malicious force and get completely nasty with it. I mean, you had the end of the setups of the suggestion of Sadie Dando earlier, so they're still sort of on old setups. It's like there's 2 setups together. It's sort of one that's rigged up and another one that's coming over with the sort of sexual suggestions that are occurring lately. Now, when it comes to sexuality, it's not good, because I'm 43 years of age and I've still not had my first partner, and I've been single since birth, so it doesn't go in favour of me when it comes to this. So I'm still trying to find my first partner, and obviously I haven't even had sex properly in my whole life, so this is why I'm not very happy, you see, because you've got to take into account that I've been sexually abused as a child as well and not had anyone. So, you know, it will be interesting to know what the next load of setups are, or the suggestions from what occurred earlier, because there hasn't really been much in the way of setups. There's been a couple of people shouting or threats or whatever, a couple of loud bike issues, and then obviously since then you've had a lot of traffic, but it hasn't really been that suggestive. It's just been sort of random rather than in an organised way like a black and blue car or whatever. But, you know, let's just see what happens later. I mean, it could go either way. The likelihood is it's the calm before the storm, and it's going to kick off like anything. But I don't know. It's not very often you get these setups, or for this amount of time. This has been going on for several days, where it's been like setups that are positive. But today and yesterday, mixed with setups that are malicious. So there's like 2 different setups possibly that have been put in place for me, and they're hitting out one lot against another lot maybe, or it's just coincidence, or there's just going through a time where things are slightly different. I do not know, but you know, I'll keep you informed with the rest of the day's problems as we go into this evening. Right, I've just coming off the road that I'm on, and believe it or not, there's been no cars apart from that one that's coming around now. That's absolutely shocking. The last time it was that quiet, where I've managed to walk that road without a single car, is actually 2023. Although it's only a few minutes, for that specific part, it's 2023 since there was no cars. This road, however, is a little bit different. Right, so that's a blue car. No suggestion, but the registration plate had Kex on it, which is plural to sex. Right, not sure what's in the sky, but it's moving very slowly, and it seems to have like a hazy effect, like it's behind some form of cloud cover, but there's no cloud cover. So what it could be is it could be spiritual phenomena, some form of UFO, or it could be a plane in the distance where I can't see the clouds because it looks like it's clear up there, so I'm not sure what that is. The catalytic converter hot point, or what I nickname that road, which comes to Barwick and goes down to where Jack the Treacle Eater is, where I'm sitting now, that road is absolutely packed. But over the other side, where I've just come from, is one of the quietest walks I've done since 2023, coming from the graveyard to where I am now. For that one direction. Obviously in other directions it's been busy today, but for that one direction. Because it's a calm night, or calm where I am, and the setups have dropped slightly, I am actually going to start my vodka slightly earlier tonight, so I got to cut down as well. So 15 cl is a very lot of vodka, to be fair, but that is the limit that I'm setting of a maximum, and I want to keep under that if possible. And when I do go back tonight, I got to stick to just 2 beers. Preferably try not to open any when I get back, but if I feel I need one, or feel the burning problem's bad, then obviously I will open them. That's the reason I have to go out in the day now, and this is why I do the Barwick walk on a daily basis, because of the burning problem being so bad at my place. Like I say, I'm trying to cut down on the alcohol, but it's very difficult at the moment, because when I go out to Barwick or whatever and not come back in until later on in the evening or whatever, 10 o'clock at night, means that I end up drinking slightly more than I do when I'm at home. But the problem is I can't stay at home, because obviously the burning problem's too bad for me to stay there in the day. And obviously even overnight, I mean last night and throughout yesterday while I was in bed with a hangover, that burning's taken grip on me. I actually still feel bad now with the burning problem at this minute in time, and it has just been a paranormal knock under my feet. That's not happened for a while. Yeah, now and again there seems to be paranormal knocks that are occurring under my feet. That began in, well, basically 2019 area, when I started listening to Cryo Chamber Records. I was at my old place and I was sort of walking about, and that's where I noticed it. So it's something supernatural, or there's or something's causing it. I've not had this in my life, and it's not schizophrenia. Right, so I've just downed a bit of vodka with some water. the road's starting to become busy, so I'm very annoyed by that, because I wanted to do my walk without a traffic flow of being, well, not being choked out by a catalyst, but because I can't smell it. But they're starting to pack the traffic on that road. So obviously I smoked my last roll up this morning because I'm getting health problems. So that's another thing that's going to bring me down a little bit. Obviously I'm going to try and stick to the original amount that I said, and see how I go. I mean, when I drink a certain amount, sometimes if things turn out bad or whatever, I can end up drinking more, but as it stands at the moment, assuming things remain stable and I don't end up burning to a point where it's extremely bad when I go back or whatever, then I should stick to what I mentioned like just now. Dog barking. Dog has been barking Amy Weston. Hang on. The sounds change as soon as I push record. Hang on. Well, it sounded like it's saying Justin spastic or whatever, but it also sounded like it said that I've shagged Amy Weston when I haven't. And it's too late for that anyway, because there we are, Amy Weston. Although it's not as clear as what it was like just now. Anyway, I'll leave the recording there. You get my drift. That's what's being barked. Last night when I came back from drinking or whatever, after I did my walk or whatever, I was speaking to one of my friends, one of the neighbours, Pete. Obviously I won't give his surname, because obviously I'm not to do that. He is actually quite intellectual when it comes to the field of medication and diagnosis of specific issues when it comes to schizophrenia and stuff like that. I have autism, Asperger's, but there are some things that he was mentioning that are very closely linked to schizophrenia. Not so much the voices or hearing things or whatever, but there's a few other things that he mentioned. And I need to check all this out, because what he told me was very, very interesting, to say the least. And obviously, like I said, he ain't a stupid person when it comes to knowing about this sort of stuff. So I haven't done that yet. I was supposed to do it last night, but I am going to check it out when I go back, assuming the burning problem's not too bad. Tonight, or I'll do it first thing in the morning before I go out. Right, so I got my MP3 player, but I forgot to update the tracks that are on there. So it's full of like old school jungle tracks mixed with the dark ambient tracks of Cryo Chamber recordings. And obviously when I put the music on there, it was before I went on holiday to my mum's. Before I was singing in the bar to Toto's Africa with my brother, which I have to admit is a fucking classic track. You can't beat it. It's one of the best tracks ever. When it comes to like dark ambient or jungle, a lot of this is based in the underground scene, so it's not commercial, and it's made cheaply, and it can be done, you know, on a program. A DJ can fucking make the track in a couple of days, and then basically that track is done. It's as simple as that. And obviously when they were doing tracks back in the time period of the 90s, when I was listening to all this, what they were doing is sampling from copyrighted samples anyway, and using old music, stretching it, warping it, slowing it down, mangling the sound to sound like it's cultic, and making a cheap jungle track and charging something like £7 for the original record, which would be up into the hundreds today if it's a 1994 track that's on the B-side of a hard jungle record from 1993 or 1994. So it is actually simple music. It's just commercial music which they've slowed down, reversed, warped, changed the tempo, changed the sound to create new tracks, like jungle tracks. When it comes to happy hardcore, it's a little bit more complicated. It's not made in the same way as jungle, because obviously they have to create their own sounds, their own samples, and there's not much in the way of using other people's music or sampling from older records to make happy hardcore. So when this chap on Good Looking Records, the Good Looking Records documentary, says you have a mainstream of shitty, simplified, fucked up, mangled sounds that comes out at you like a piece of shit out of a garbage can, and then he says something like, unless you have what Bookham is playing, which is clean, fresh, intelligent, thought out melodies, melodies, pad patterns or whatever he said, I can't remember what he said now, and he said, I'm sorry, but we're the underground, untouchable forever. He might sound like a rough chap. He is actually spot on with what he's saying, because when they were making that jungle stuff back in the 90s, it was pretty simplified. So it's not good. I mean, obviously he doesn't make a very good suggestion, but he's spot on. The way he said use your head, when he's pointing to his head, when he went on Good Looking Records documentary to mention that, he knows about the cultic stuff, or he knows about the unsafe type of jungle tracks that they were making back in those days, where they're warping those tracks into cultic, demonic sound effects, which is also known as dark jungle. I've been more of a deep jungle listener until recent times. It was about 5-6 years ago that I started going out of jungle, but I still like it. I went into this dark ambient, but the thing is, in recent times, if you go to more up-to-date times, like now for example, 6 weeks ago, whatever, since being on a holiday, my music's sort of gone through another change. Initially I started getting into Peter's music, which is one of the neighbours, and I was, listening to some of the hard rock he listens to, so it's got a lot of shouting in it, but when you've had a beer or you've had a vodka or whatever, it's nice to have something different. It's nice to hear other people's music and give it a trial to see what it's like. But obviously when I went on holiday with my brother, Toto, Africa, you can't beat that. That's one of my favourite tracks of the 80s. Classic. I mean, there are other tracks as well, like Queen and David Bowie, Under Pressure, The Stranglers, Golden Brown, The Specials, Ghost Town, Japan Ghosts, Jean-Michel Jarre, Ethnicolor One, and again, when it comes to these sorts of tracks, they were using, if you take Nutty One off the Nut EP for example, which is on Bare Necessities Records, which has been reissued on Nightfalls Records, you got Liquid Affray. I mean, they're taking a sample, just slowing it down slightly from what's it called, Ultravox Dreams, and then on the other side, that's Liquid Affray, by the way. If we go to Underwater Fireworks, on the other side of that record, you've got Jean-Michel Jarre, Ethnicolor One. It's clever how they do it. These DJs can make a fucking track in just one day, and they can make money on it, and it lasts for years and people want it. But it's just a simple made track. It's not anything that's good, anything that's got some talent or anything like that, like stuff that comes out in the charts, especially the older stuff when it comes to the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s. Obviously I still like jungle, because obviously it's played a big part in my life. The very first jungle tape I bought was Dance Trans Randall, Mission Control, 2nd of the 4th 1994, and I was the age of 12, and coming up to the age of 13, which would have been in December 1994. Although I was only 12 years of age, coming up to 13, when I bought that Randall tape, there are still classics on that tape that I like today. And I mean, some of those tracks, most of those tracks in fact, are tracks I like at this minute in time. I'll give you the track listing of what's actually on that tape. So you've got Project AKO, Surgically Removed, on Reinforced Records. Wax Doctor, The Saint, the original mix, and take into account there's 2 versions on the record of that unreleased version of The Saint, and it's the version that's got more soul to it and got more drums to it and sounds a bit more less flat. Then you've got Soundman, Wishing on a Dream, the 94 lick, which is on Jetstar Recordings, which I think is connected to Congo Natty, but I'm not sure. Shimon, Predator, which is produced by Andy C and as well. Also you have what's the other track? Lee and Gwange, Too Deep. That's on a record called Legendary Volume 3. Lee and Gwange, I'll give you the names of these producers. They're known as Total Science today. So you've got Lee Ching, Jason Greenhaig, Paul Smith, and Simon Matthews. Simon Matthews is known as DJ Gwange. Lee Ching is known as DJ Lee. Jason Spinback is known as Q Project. And Paul Smith is known as Spinback. Now, going back before they were Total Science, they did a load of promos, but they did like, I'd say it's commercial in some ways, but it's commercial in the rave scene rather than commercial in like the mainstream as such, you know, sort of like the chart scene or anything like that. And Lee and Gwange, Too Deep, was one great track, but the track on the A side of that, which is Solutions, was the better known track, which is Lee and Tango Solutions. Anyway, going back to the Randall tape that I bought when I was 12, coming up 13, the next track after that you had Parallel World, Contagious, which is on Good Looking Records, and again that's a really good track. It's like a very soulful, deep, heavy bass track with seagull sounds in it, and obviously you can get that that's actually been released commercially as it stands in the underground scene, that is. So you can get it on Good Looking Records, Points in Time Volume 4, and it's produced by Andrew Ritchie's. Then you've got Spinback and Gwange, or Gwange and Spinback, The Execution. It's better known for the Total Science remix or the Serum remix, but the original used to be played and is a very big track. Then you've got Trinity, Chapter 19, as it is on the record, but when they printed the record they put the track on the wrong side, so you had Chapter 20 and Chapter 19, and it was on the flip side, so it was listed as Chapter 20 instead of Chapter 19. Brian G did a CD going back some years ago, or a mix that was on the internet, called Retrospective Volume 4, and it was named Dillinger Chapter 19. After listening to a better quality version when I downloaded that track, I noticed it was a very heavy bass track. I've got someone on the phone. I'll go a bit further with this music in a minute. I was just chatting to a friend on the phone, so he's phoned several times tonight. So let's continue with the track listing, shall we, for that Randall tape that I had when I was 12, coming up 13. Ronnie Size and DJ Crust, Formulate, or Formula, but you take into account they put some female vocals and lyrics in that track. When that track was initially released, it didn't have that. When you go into side B of that Randall tape, because it's like 30 minutes per side, and I wish I stopped timing Loud Bikes to a stretch, obviously, you had Unit 1, Love Me, on Creative Wax Records. Unit 1 is basically Alex Reese and Wax Doctor, which are well-known producers, and did the track I Feel the Sunshine, which I think actually got in... Well, actually, I think that track got into the mainstream, actually, to be fair, in the 95 area. You know, the proper mainstream, you know, like the commercial chart mainstream. I'm not sure what position, but they're pretty well known. I mean, a lot of this stuff is well known, but a lot of the tracks, you know, because a lot of it's cultic and a lot of it's very dark and very symbolic, or, you know, it's not music that people tend to go for. People don't want it, you see. People don't want to buy it. So they prefer the happier stuff, you know, the more jolly stuff. And I can see where they're coming from, because most people have a better sort of life. It's sort of, if I remember, a lot of people were saying it's bad life shit, or people don't want that sort of stuff, they want happier stuff. Which does, in some way, go against people that have bad lives if they want to listen and indulge and just suck on fucking tracks like that. But you've got to take into account, that's not the way it works. I've done this for 30 years, just sucking on fucking tracks that are fucking deep or moody or shit. Because they are. They're just simplified tracks. They're easy to make. It does not take much to make a jungle track. And you realise this. When you get older, you realise this. That your brain, especially if you've got autism like me, you just don't think. You don't listen to people. You turn yourself off. And you go into these tracks and you think, oh, they're deep, they're moody. All they're doing is taking the piss out of you. They're taking the piss out of you. They make them to suppress people, to put them in a honeycomb, to make you feel like you're shit. And then you think to yourself, that's a good track. And what your mind is doing is just reading that track, and it's just like dreaming. It's sort of, but it's done in a way where you know they can control you, they can get you under. If they can get you under, they can do it. It's best not to listen to that stuff. I've listened to it for many years. You've got to have a change, you know, you've got to listen to other stuff. Because I've always listened to jungle music, I'm gonna like jungle music, and I'm gonna like it for many years. But I'm not gonna listen to it like I've been listening to it in recent times. I mean, in the last 5 years, I've not really listened to much jungle at all, to be fair. A lot of the music I'm into today is commercial. But commercial's more happy. It's got much more of a better vibe to it. It's still got that soul to it. So, you know, but it hasn't got that soul where it's fucking dragging you down to the floor. But anyway, let's get to the rest of the tracks on the Randall tape that I had when I was 12, coming up 13. Busy Bee, Tough Head on One Nation Recordings, which was the next track on that tape. Then you had Photech Resolution, but it's better known as Studio Pressure Resolution, because they reissued it as Photech Resolution later on, and it's a jump up version, or a modern drum and bass version to the version that's on that Randall tape. I'm not keen on jump up drum and bass, but it's worth mentioning, and I think it's on Photech Recordings or Certificate 18, which again is connected to Photech. There's another record he did which was good, and that's Infiltrate on Code of Practice. And then on the other side you had Can We Change the Future, the dubplate version. But the recording quality on that record wasn't that great. It's a bit like Rev P 1994 on Impact Records, where there's a slight I don't know how to put it, but the quality just didn't have that. It's like it's slightly muffled to what it should be when it, you know, when you produce a track. And it's recorded on Damot, especially the Impact Records Rev P, because Rev P did 1994 as the Specialised track on the B side of the record, but it's well known for the Rhythm Process, which is on the A side. And it's just before the happy hardcore stuff came in, so it's quite a commercial track. When you consider it's like one of those very deep tracks, it is actually quite a commercial track, but it's not mega commercial, but it's a track that's definitely, you know, been around and gone. Peter Parsons is the actual producer of that track. He's also known as Voyager and other producers as well, but he was known as Rev P when he did that track. Right, so anyway, let's get back to this Randall tape that I bought when I was a kid. So after Photech Resolution or Studio Pressure Resolution, you had Coda Space Tech, which is released on a green record, and there's another track on the other side which is called The Deep, but it's also released on a CD called Jungle Business Volume 1, which I had many years ago. And there's another track I like on there called Orca Intellect, Atlas Second Heaven, and Definition of a Living by DJ Trace, of the version that's on there. But there is actually an Aim and Break jungle version to the version of that Definition of Living. However, because I'm used to the Jungle Business version, I prefer that version. But anyway, let's get back to Randall, because after that track, you had Ascend and Ultra Vibe, What Kind of World. Now Ascend and Ultra Vibe is the same producer as Dread Bass. Not many people know about this, but Dread Bass is Ascend and Ultra Vibe. They're the same people, just going under different names. So they released What Kind of World in 1994, and it was released on Back to Basics Records. I think it's a sub-label to Moving Shadow, I'm not 100% sure. And then you had String for String, which is produced by Flynn and Flora. Now I'm not sure if that's DJ Ronnie Size and Crust, but it's on the Full Cycle Records label, which is mostly Ronnie Size and DJ Crust. And going back to 1995, when I was listening to the radio, Galaxy 101 had the Full Cycle show with Ronnie Size and DJ Crust. And I was listening to their music, and they were playing Root Boy Monty's Warp 10 on a regular basis, nearly every other night when they had the 10 o'clock drum and bass show or whatever. And I was like 13, 14 when I was listening to it, because I was only a child. So on the show, when they went through it, it sort of said Ronnie Size and DJ Crust, the only ones you can trust. You could, it's good, but obviously I don't really listen to that sort of music anymore. I prefer the more sort of straighter tracks, the less stupid tracks, and just gone into like a different music style, I guess, especially since the holiday. You see, my brother, when he played Toto Africa and we were doing karaoke to that track, I just absolutely fucking loved it, you know, on holiday. And it's just sort of bringing me back to the sort of old music. I mean, I've always loved the music my dad's played in the car, you know, the 80s, the 70s or whatever, and some of the 60s and 90s, and even some of the 2000s, and if you go back to maybe some of the 50s even. You know, I've always liked that music, but I fell into this trap of going into the jungle scene when I was 12, coming up 13. I just thought it's cool music, I thought the kids like it, you know. Anyway, back to the Randall tape. After String for String, it was LTJ Bookham and Pesce 19.5, which can be found on Jungle Techno 3. Drum and Bass, A Way of Life, which back in its day was a commercial CD, by the way. And it's also been released on Point in Time Volume 1, Good Looking Records. I think it's the second track, because the first track's Dope Travelling Part 2. However, I'm going to give you some information about the Dope Travelling Part 2, because they had to reissue it, because it's part of the what they needed to put on the Good Looking Records Points in Time series. When Ben James and Ray Stanley initially produced that track, they changed the bass line patterns in the breakdown part of the track, so they're altered to the original track. Now, whether that's done on purpose or whether they did that because of a specific issue, or they didn't realise how the track was completely made, they sort of did that. So the bass, so you've got that bit where it goes and it goes into that part, where it's slightly altered to the initial version that they released in 1994. But it's still a good track, you know, it's still great. And obviously if that has been remade with a few alterations, then it just shows you how quick and easy a DJ can remake a quick and easy old school jungle track if they want to. As far as the Randall tape goes, there's one last track I forgot to mention, which is Scan Chainsaw on 24 Karat Records, but is also known as Scan Not Sorry. That's SKN. It's not the same Scan that produces trap music today of like the track Warrior, but it is known as Scan. Right, I just want to mention something that's going to shock you, because it shocked me initially. Right, firstly, let's talk about Andy C, that did the track Roll On Ram Records. Obviously he had help, but he was only 14 or 15 when he made that track. When Source Direct, Jim and Phil made Intellect in 1994 on Sound of Life Records, he was only 17. Right, I had to stop the recording because there's people. It sounded like it was a threat, some fucking form, whatever fucking threat, but I can't guarantee that, obviously. Obviously everyone's getting built up. It's very busy considering it's a Monday night. But what I wanted to say initially, I have already done this recording before, but obviously because I'm a bit tipsy because I've had some vodka, I can't think what I need to say. I'm going to have to stick with this bloody recording because obviously I'm getting pissed off redoing it. So basically, one of the earliest producers that was producing jungle is actually younger than DJ Andy C. Now, like I said, people when they're young need help with producing this sort of music. In 1994, there's a specific jungle record, which is one of those breakdown tracks that's really deep and very low. Well, the actual person that produced this track was only 12 years of age. I've forgotten what the name of the track is, but I did know earlier on, but it's gone out of my head. So, how the fuck does someone that age know how to make a track that's like that? That's what I was discussing, or what I was mentioning. Because to make a cultic jungle track that's very deep and gives like a spiritual sound and is created with the aim and break with breaks that are in place is not easy for someone to do at the age of 12. Like I said, that person would have needed help when he created that specific jungle track, but it just goes to show that kids can make fucking tracks that are symbolic, deep and hard as a child back in 1994. Today you wouldn't get that, at all. The type of sound effects that this person would have used, and most people in fact in general, is very similar to David Wise's Donkey Kong Country sound effects that he puts in his music. So what they were doing is they were making jungle tracks with sound effects similar to David Wise Donkey Kong Country sound effects. So they're putting that sort of sound in jungle music to make it sound deep. These people must have some idea of what they're doing, knowing what they're doing, sorry. But it does surprise me a little bit of these three producers. These are very young ages, and it's not something that you expect. Like I said, I can't remember what the 12-year-old was called, but Andy C, he wasn't much older, 13 or 14 or whatever age he was. And obviously come late 1994 or whatever it was in 1994, he had help to do the Roll On track. But then again, Source Direct they weren't exactly that old, Jim and Phil, because they were 18 or something like that, or 20, sorry, when they did that documentary about drum and bass on the Lola French drum and bass documentary. It's on YouTube. So it would have been 17 when they produced that Intellect track. And if you listen to their Sound of Life Intellect track, you know, it's quite shocking, to be fair. They left school, you see, before they should have. And when they fucking started producing, they were producing it fucking quality. Right, so I'm at a catalytic converter hot point, and I need to time a catalytic converter. They're getting this rigged up as best they fucking can. However, if I can get to the top of it, I've almost slipped or whatever, trying to avoid being choked down by a catalytic converter when I've not had flu. And they just won't fucking stop it. That road was busy earlier, but as it stands this evening, there's been about 3 minutes where there's been no cars. Well, I haven't heard any cars, and then they suddenly time a car to occur when I reach that specific part. And then there's another. However, when it comes to the suggestion of Lauren, replacement of the sectoral setups that they suggested earlier on, I don't have a fucking clue what they're replacing it with. There seems to be no suggestion whatsoever. Initially the fucking setups dropped, and then obviously I was documenting music or whatever after I had a few shots of fucking vodka in my mouth. But even at this minute in time, there seems to be no suggestion of what it's being replaced with. And obviously when these setups occur, they're not ever done to be nice as well. So, you know, it's always done to be nasty, so. But there just seems to be something that's, I don't know whether the people that are setting this up have been caught, or whether there's an ease in the setups. Just seems rather unusual the last 3 or 4 days. These setups have never been in favour of me. Something's going on, but it seems to be like, I wouldn't say in favour of me, but it's like a prediction. It's like it's saying what's going to happen. You know, they're not happy about it, so they're making the suggestion they're not happy about it, but they're also making the suggestion that you're going to get sex properly for the first time in your life. That hasn't occurred yet, but you know, it could be a wind up, it could be a fuck up, or it could just be coincidence, and they're trying to put other setups against me to be nasty, to tell me that they've messed up and they want to rip me to pieces or whatever. I don't know, but you know, let's just see what happens over the next couple of days, because obviously it seems rather unusual that you get a positive setup from a force or an organised force that's always against you. Will I dream? Will I dream? Will I dream? Of course you dream. Don't know. I dream. Will I dream? Will I dream? Will I dream? Dream. Will I dream? Of course.